Hello, this is Coach Jonny Carter with the Chicago Fire. Have another English Premier League opinions piece for world-class coaching. It's been another fantastic weekend of Premier League games. Not so much controversy this time around, or certainly not as much controversy as last week, but interesting all the same. So what is the topic that we're going to talk about this weekend? Well, conversation that goes around with my coaching colleagues almost every single Monday morning after the EPL weekend games is the difference and the number of teams that are playing a back four against now playing a three-man defensive group and maybe five with the wing-backs. It seems like this has now come into fashion. Almost every club in the division is now playing with this system, whereas it just wasn't here maybe 12 months ago. It's in fact almost a year, almost to the date, where Chelsea, Antonio Conte, was not having a lot of success, losing to Arsenal quite heavily with a four-man defensive group, and then he changed back to something that was familiar to him from his previous jobs with the Italian national team and with Juventus, and went to his 3-4-3 formation. And worked incredibly successfully, ended up winning the Premier League quite comfortably and playing some decent soccer along the way. So how come then from 12 months ago, where almost zero teams in the Premier League were playing it, one or two every now and again would perhaps sample the three-man or the five-man wing-back defensive group, and now I see it almost every game. At least one team in every fixture seems to be playing this new formation. It worked for Conte, it worked for Chelsea because he was very, very familiar with the system. Like I say, Italian national team, a lot of success with Juventus. He had a long time working with that system. He had players who had a long time working with that system. And then he was able, he had the knowledge to be able to transfer that information to his Chelsea team and got success from it. But I don't see the same levels of success from some of the other clubs that have almost fashionably jumped on the bandwagon of this three-man, five-man defensive group. I think a lot of these coaches are maybe not prepared or knowledgeable enough to be able to educate their players. Maybe their players are not experienced enough to be able to change from what has been a very, very staple four-man defensive group for probably most of their careers. And for some clubs, it's just not working. I think probably Manchester City is perhaps the next best example of a team that's able to jump from a four-man defensive group into a three-man, five-man wing-back defensive group and still manage to gain success from it. And I can understand it working for them. They've got high-quality players, and I can also understand the tactical reasons why they want to do that. They've got such an abundance of attacking players that can play up top in wide areas as well, that they want to try and move to two forwards or maybe even three forwards, like Chelsea do in their 3-4-3. But for some of the other clubs, I just don't see that they're getting the success from it. We saw Chelsea and Arsenal kind of nullify each other with the same or similar systems. Not quite right. I think Arsenal are going to struggle with that, with the wing-back system, particularly in the centre of midfield. Ramsey, as good a player as he is, I just don't see that he's going to be able to do the job that, say, Nemanja Matic and Conte did for Chelsea in their Premier League winning season. Tottenham have flirted with this, with the same system again. They've sometimes gone with full-backs playing at wing-back, sometimes with forwards playing as wing-backs. We had Son playing a left wing-back just this weekend, previously in a cup final. Hasn't really worked out for them. My biggest one is I watched Everton play Manchester United, and again, they have jumped from a four-man defensive group into a five-man defensive group, and it hasn't really worked out for them. And I just think it goes back to the standard of coaching, or the time that the coach has to really prepare those players. One of the most important components of the three central defenders is that at least one of them needs to be very comfortable on the ball. You have someone like David Luiz at Chelsea, or Bonucci at Juventus and the Italian national team, Alderweireld at Tottenham, for instance. So some of those clubs or national teams have those kind of players at their disposal. And to be fair to Everton, they did. They have Michael Keane there. But what happened in this Everton game, just against Manchester United on the weekend, is that they weren't able to get the ball to him, and we had players like Jagielka and Ashley Williams who were stepping out in possession and trying to build the play out of the back. It just wasn't successful because those players just weren't good enough at it. You had Ashley Williams give the ball away, almost schoolboy error, as cheaply as you've seen, and then 2 seconds later the ball's in the back of the net and the game is lost for Everton. Difficult to blame that whole defeat on Ashley Williams, but It's really the system that just didn't quite work out for them. The coach not preparing the players not being able to work the system well enough, and it didn't work for Everton. I think Everton would be a much stronger team playing with the four-man defensive group, having two screeners in front. We could play with one of the many number 10s they have at their disposal, and I think they would be in better shape. So there has been some success stories with the three-man, with the wing-backs making it a five-man defensive group, but a lot of the times I see a lot of failure in the Premier League. So I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not the biggest fan of three or the five with the wing-backs. I much prefer the back four. I think there's not much more you can do with the wing-backs that you can't already do with the four-man defensive group, and I'm not seeing a lot of clubs or a lot of coaches being very successful with it. So interested to hear a few opinions from you guys out there. Maybe if your club that you're working with or your club that you support from the Premier League is using that system, if you can see any players out there that you think fit in well to the system, players that absolutely do not fit well into that system. I throw out Ashley Williams there, for instance, and just share some opinions on it. I am not a fan. I prefer to go with a four-man defensive group. Some clubs are being successful, but not as much as I think that they could be. So if you got any opinions on it, we'd be happy to hear from you. We'd like to start up a bit of conversation on this topic, so please share some comments with us. Thanks very much for listening, guys, and we'll speak again soon. Bye now.